Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to our Cosmic Compass conversation on today, November 11th, 11/11. Before we start, I wanted to just bring in that energy of what today is, what it can be. It's Remembrance Day in different parts of the world. In the United States, it was named Veterans Day, but it is a day that was selected 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour, and it was selected to remember those who have given their lives and or who are missing from times of war. And so, while that is not necessarily the topic of our conversation today, I do think it is really important to just remember that that's how this day started. And that is an important part for all of us in different ways, as I know that we're all here um, wanting to create more peace in the world with more compassion and more love. So yeah, so it's a good way to begin the day. Now, 11/11 has also become a really awesome reminder that we are here as spiritual beings in human bodies, and reminders of how we want to traverse the world, how we want to navigate with our cosmic compass and beyond. So for those of you that are familiar with that 11/11, anytime you see it, particularly now in our era of digital clocks, which not all of us grew up with, by the way, um, that era of digital anything, when you see 11/11, what we're seeing is a reminder of stopping, taking a moment, breathing, and reconnecting, connecting with who you are and how you're bringing love and peace into the world. So from that place, we'll do some breathing and then we'll get into the rest of it. I'm just super excited to get to our guests. So, all right. First things first, if you feel like closing your eyes, if you can close your eyes, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You can just bring your awareness inward, depending on what you're doing right now. If it's easy to just drop your awareness down to the earth and honor where you are right now, honor this earth. Honor all those who have come before where you are right now. And for those of you who may be uh, not in the place of your birth, honoring the place of your birth as well, wherever that might be. And taking a moment now to feel some roots, some energetic roots dropping all the way to the core of the earth. And from this place, we'll breathe up that healing energy of earth up through the soles of the feet, expanding your belly. And exhaling when you're ready. Breathing in up through the soles of the feet, filling your body with everything it needs right now, expanding your belly. And exhaling when you're ready. Dropping again that energetic root all the way to the core, breathing up from the earth, really feeling that grounded, supporting energy, expanding your belly. And exhaling, creating this powerful sacred circle. Breathing in, expanding the belly. And exhaling. Beautiful. And from this place, if you feel like coming back, you can. We're going to pull some cards for the week and talk about some astrology. So, what I want to talk about today is these last days of Pluto in Capricorn. There's so much going on in the world. So, what I'd like to do actually is I'd like to bring it home to the personal today. I'd like you to consider, and we've talked about this before, but I'd like you to consider um, 2008, 2009, and 2010, and then moving forward from there. So that's roughly 14, 15 and a half years. I'd love you to consider where you were back in those years and where you are now. What has changed? And the reason this was coming to me is I always do meditation before we begin. And I was just reminded that there were choices and paths that this is always true, but this Pluto energy required many of us to take a path of uncertainty or to take a path where, we wouldn't know how our lives would unfold. And when we look back and then we bring ourselves into the present time, how can you honor the transformation that you've been through? How can you honor the shifting and the evolution and the connection to your soul's path? It's a very Plutonian energy. How can you honor why you're here and how you're here now in 2024? And before Pluto goes into Aquarius, is there anything that you need to do for yourself? Any reminders, anything that's coming up for you that will support you? Because we're going into a very different energy and a very different time. So more transformation ahead, more evolution ahead. It doesn't end, of course. And then Pluto at 29 degrees right now, where it is, it's just really just inching up there. There's an intensity. There's an intensity of reminding us that there has been a lot of change. There will be a lot of change. And I think just bring it home today. Bring it home and really honor your heart, honor your being, honor your own evolution. And if there are places in your life where you want to shift more, or if there are places within yourself that want to have more authentic expression or bring more healing energy into the world, this is a great time to honor that. So that's your little astrology for today. I promise you it's going to get more fun out here. I promise you. I know I'm really serious today, but what can I say? It's serious energy. It's, you know that as well as I do. All right. So, well, last time I pulled cards, they were a little intense. So who knows what's going to happen today? I'm good. You're good. We're all good. Here we go. First card for the week. Well, this isn't so bad. All right. It does. And again, always, what do you feel? What do you see? What do you connect with? Yeah, I'm going to have to shift my video so you can see this. Hold on. Again, what do you notice? I have no idea what I'm doing here. I was going to try to, no idea. Okay. Maybe if I take, there we go. Now you can see it better. All right. So Two of Pentacles has a traditional meaning. You can it's kind of fun. You can see that there's a planetary aspect, maybe the sun, but there's a lot of balance going on here. Any of the twos. If anybody feels like this today, I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot to navigate, a lot to balance. So that's our first card. And I will, in the follow-up email, put Chris Ann Light Sears Tarot. I will put her affirmations in the follow-up. And I have thoughts, of course, but right now we're just going to focus on you because this is for you. All right. Next card for the week. This is always an interesting card, and this comes up a lot. And I'm just going to let you be with the energy, the Knight of Swords. And again, every time I see this card, I have a particular response. It's my narrative, and it has nothing to do with the card, what it means. So I have to look at that in myself. Like, what is this card bringing up for me? Why do I feel that way? What can I do with that? What is the message? The Knight of Swords obviously has a particular meaning, which you'll find out in the follow-up newsletter. But here's this image for us to deepen into. And today, actually, I'm feeling a little movement from what I felt the last time I saw this card. So that's good, a little evolution there. Okay. And then our last card, and then I'll hold them all up. Oh, well, this probably relates to our guests quite a bit. All right, here we go. I have to get it. There we go. I always say, I'm learning that I have different pronunciations than a lot of people. I say Hierophant. It could be Hierophant. Could be Hierophant. Could be Hierophant. I don't know, but I would say Hierophant. Probably really bad pronunciation. Anyway, this is a great card, reminders to each of us. And again, I don't want to say too much, but what do you see? What do you notice? What do you feel? What's happening here? For those of you that know the tarot, you know this is a bridge card of sorts. Okay. So we have these three cards. And you can it's an interesting energy to look at and just dive into within yourself. What do I feel? What do I notice? Where is this going? Good question. But I do see, this is great. I do see some shifting happening here, which feels good. That's about all I'm going to say. All right. It'll be a mystery for now. All right. But more importantly, I really want to get to our guests. So by way of introduction, I'm going to bring Gareth and Talya in here. I'm going to spotlight you two. I know it's late there. Well, maybe not too late. What time is it? Is it 8 o'clock? You guys will have to unmute. Let me ask you to unmute. See if I can do this. There you go. Will that help?
Thank you.
There you are.
There we
Welcome.
are.
What time
Thank
is
you.
it there?
It's 8:15 here at
On
night.
the same day? Is it still 11:11?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's yeah.
Okay, good. We're not in the Southern Hemisphere, or maybe are we in the Southern Hemisphere? Where are we?
We are, but not that far ahead. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just not
Okay.
the next day yet.
All right. For those of you who are wondering, who are our beautiful guests this morning or this evening? This is Gareth and Talya, and they are hailing from South Africa and joining us to share a little bit more about their experiences as people who are living compassionately and empathically with animals. And when I say actually living with animals, hold on, I have a share here. I want to share this with you all. They are literally living with the animals, right? This is the photo that you sent yesterday. There's a whole bunch of other photos, but I didn't know which one I should share from Facebook. But for those of you that follow them on Facebook, you've seen some pretty extraordinary photos. And I'd like for both of you to share a little bit more about who you are. For those of you who are wondering, like, how did I meet these amazing people? We met in Birmingham this past summer and had the opportunity, David and I had the opportunity to spend a dinner having more conversation. And I really just want to appreciate both of you for your path and purpose in life. It's not always an easy one. And I know that each of you have your own insights from these last 14, 15 years. You're welcome to share them if you want to. You don't have to. There's some particular aspects of today that I know are very powerful personally as well. So you can share as little as or as much as you want by way of introducing yourselves and your work. So I'm just going to say hello and thank you for being here. And
Thank you.
speak.
You can go first. You can go first. Okay. But we can debate about who goes first for the rest of the evening, or I can start. So my name is Gareth Mare. My surname is spelt Mare, and I work with horses, so people often assume it is Gareth Mare, but it is Gareth Mare. I eventually stopped correcting people and just accept it. My profession, a few years ago, I would have said I am a horse trainer that has evolved over the years, as I kind of feel the term trainer is condescending. I don't think that we train horses, and everything that we ever ask them to do, they know on their own. What we do is develop communication with them that we can do it in concert. Back to 2008, 2009, 2010 was a major point of transition for me. That's when I transitioned from corporate through to the path less traveled. In 2006, my daughter died of a disease that no doctors could diagnose. And funny enough, today would have been her 29th birthday.
You're amazing.
And that sent me down the path of looking for more purpose, more meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been the last 14, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And quite a journey, to say the least. It wasn't the journey of, having a big amount of capital to pour into a sabbatical that ended up being a career. It was basically giving up everything, going years, living in less than ideal situations, and just, people talk about living month to month. There was always more month than there was money. Not that that is always better now, but when I look at what we've got now as a basis and where we've grown, I'm very grateful for where we've got to now.
Yeah. Gareth, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I mean, it just, your talk in Birmingham was very poignant, to say the least, very moving. And you sharing again today about your daughter and also about the timing of your own path and the questions that arise when traumatic things happen in our lives. It doesn't always have to be trauma, but very often it is. And I talk about this a lot with clients. Pluto, we love Pluto. We love you, Pluto. And Pluto does bring up a lot of this, the challenge that we do grow through adversity. It doesn't have to be always so painful, but very oftentimes it is. So I really want to just say thank you again for sharing so deeply. And I will echo that in 2010, 2011, I left everything behind to start over from scratch. And wow, it is a journey that is humbling to the soul in every possible way. But I think that based on what you're saying, I can feel that connection to there. Yes, it's a choice, and no, it's not a choice. Like the choice is, does my soul feel suffocated and feel crushed, or do I make this change? So welcome to this next era very soon. It'll be very interesting to see where this leads us. So I'm grateful. And I want to bring Talya in to have her introduce herself, and then we're going to join, and then we're going to start doing our thing. So
I love that, doing our thing.
yes, we're going to do our thing. It's
yeah,
very American way of saying it.
Yeah. So I'm Talya Mare Primich. I always have to spell my name out because it's hilarious, because now we're engaged. So getting married, I'll be Talya Mare because it's pronounced the same. Um,
So
so
funny.
yeah, anyway, so I found it quite interesting when you brought up the 2008 mark. Um, that was a really difficult time in the sense that, um, so I actually lost my godfather
Mm,
to suicide.
mhm,
Um, and to me, that shaped my life in a rather interesting way because if I look back now from where I am and not in a younger person model, I'll see that he was just a person who wanted to feel connection and part of something.
mhm.
And a lot of the time, suicide it comes up because you feel so alone and isolated.
Yeah.
And so I went into different modalities. My main calling is healing on different levels. But I went into mental health for I guess that reason, and
Mhm.
also just to gain more understanding of how the human mind works. Um, and then I obviously reached out. So I've done Reiki and all these different kinds of energy modalities too. And it down the line, it brought me into communication with animals of different kinds, different species. The horses have been a massive one to reconnect with my spiritual self
Yeah.
because there was a period of time that I cut off all spiritual connection whatsoever because it felt too painful to feel connected, weirdly enough. Um, and yeah, now it's taken on a whole new beautiful journey of where I feel like it's almost safe to go into healing again. And the horses have and the elephants have been a major part of that. We've been very blessed with the amount of interactions we've had with different species. Um, very special creatures, in fact. Yeah, and just seeing where the journey takes us, really.
I love that. And Talia, I want to say that I have never done either of their charts, so I don't have any of that information, but I do want to say to you and both of you, but Talia, I think also knowing the evolution of coming from uh your youth and having that particular experience with your godfather, and also you said it was your godfather, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I keep hearing an uncle-like figure also. So I wanted to share that.
So I was also really close with an uncle figure, and he passed away like a year or two between. I can't like I kind of blocked out that phase of my life,
Okay.
but he also passed away.
Okay. Well, that would explain why I think maybe he's here too. So I think we have quite a grouping of people from the other side who are joining us. Thanks to Gareth and Talia for coming in here so open and authentic with the stories. And Talia, everything in the evolution, and this is true for both of you, or it's true for all of us, but I really want to say everything you've done up until now gets us to Pluto and Aquarius. And I know just what I know that this is the time. Like this is the time for you both to come together. Do you know? I mean, this is a personal question. You don't have to answer it, but are you getting married soon? Are you getting married next year? Do you have a date? You don't have to share because this is going on
But if
YouTube.
you're going to ask each of us, if you're going to ask us each individually, we'll probably say a different thing. I would say soon.
So it's such an interesting one because yes, soon, but it's like so many things in my mind. So many things have to happen before we can actually get married. Because
Yeah,
I don't know. I think I complicate things a lot more than they need to be complicated.
it's okay. That's okay. You're in good company. It's okay. Well, I think ultimately what I was getting at is you'll be getting married when Pluto's in Aquarius. So that is the next era. And here you are entering into another era of relationship. I mean, you've been together a while, but it's still, it's a different way of doing things. So I'm excited for both of you to continue the path together and to continue the evolution that you've both been on. Um, it's clearly time for us to have this conversation. It's been time. And I'd love to just again, this conversation is unstructured. They have no idea what I'm going to ask them because I have no idea what I'm going to ask them beforehand. But I do know that what I'd like to do is offer our listeners and the people here who are creating Container with us an opportunity to hear more about this work and how the animals have come to you. And Gareth, if you want to go back in time a little bit and just give us a little bit of information about, when did you know and how did you know? Because there's always a lot of questions about when do I make the jump? How do I make the shift? So if you want to speak to that or anything else, we're here.
Yeah. So for me, there was no conscious decision. I was at a pretty broken place, and I kind of numbed myself with substance, and I can't even over a 3-year period, I went 3 years where I don't think I spent a day sober. But I can't say why it got to a point where I felt it was time to break that cycle. But it was a case of literally packing what I could carry, and walking and hitchhiking. I didn't know where I was going. We've got a main arterial that connects our big cities, from Durban to Johannesburg, and I started heading up that road, and I thought, okay, I'll just hitch as far as the next person takes me. And I kept hitching as far as the next person would take me. And I ended up in a little mountain town called Underberg. And I had my guitar with me, and I thought, well, this is where I'm at. And it was in August, which is our winter. And I know people might associate South Africa with scorching heat, and most of the time it is, but we do in our mountain towns, we do still have snow. So there's snow in the mountains, and I was literally homeless on the side of the road in Underberg, and pulled up my guitar and started playing. And a fantastically kind man came and asked me to teach him to play guitar. And through that conversation, he said, hey, I've got a spare bed. You can stay there as long as you need until you get yourself settled. And he was fantastically kind. He asked no questions. And he ended up putting me in touch with someone that he said thought might have worked for me, with horses. And I hadn't even thought about horses in probably 15 years being in corporate. And so he scheduled this meeting, and to this meeting walked one of my old clients from corporate that ran a horse farm up in the mountains.
Can't make it up, can you? You cannot make it up.
Yeah, you can't make it up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he said to me, well, look, I don't have a permanent position for you, but he's a little bit crazy. He lived just disappearing and running into the mountains or running along the coast. He says, I'm doing this run down the coast for 2 weeks. Literally ran for 2 weeks. Yeah. So would you like to caretake the farm while we're away? I said, cool, I'll do it. Got a place to stay, hang out in the mountains with horses. And I stayed for 8 years. So
8 years?
The 2 weeks quickly became 8 years. Yeah. So it was quite a homecoming for me going back to horses. It was like I never left. And I found exactly what I needed in that non-verbal, non-judgmental connection, that space to share without words.
Yeah.
And that's what I got out of horses. And that evolved to me starting to work with, we got to be so careful with the terminology. not wild horses, but they're not feral either. Untamed horses. Okay. So
Untamed. Okay.
untamed horses.
Okay.
Yeah. And the untamed horses taught me a lot about being vulnerable and open.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Which you are very much so. And I appreciate that about you very much. And there's an element to your sharing that has brought up a lot of emotion for me because I can feel how you're putting yourself out there. Because I think, too, this was just kind of my experience as well in a different way, but putting yourself out there, being so vulnerable, being very surrendered, allowed the universe to bring you into a path. I mean, I just feeling emotional just saying these words, but bringing you into this path that has brought you here. And you and Talia together now bringing that forward into the next era. I'd love to hear about, how the horses and how all the animals, and you can tell any stories you want, even about snakes, it's fine. I'm far away from the snakes. It's okay. That how the animals have spoken to you and how, and like you said, in that silence and in that stillness, what has been conveyed and what has been healing. And I'd love to hear from both of you, whatever you want to share.
So I've got a particular story about my mare. So she taught me, there's like one specific lesson, I mean, so many, but there's one particular message that I'm going to share now. And through my life, I had always been told I'm hostile, I have a short fuse, all these kind of things. And
I'm laughing only because I just don't see, I mean, I could see your passion, but sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
yeah.
Okay.
No, it's fine. So
Okay.
then I was working with her one day and I was starting on the horsemanship journey and I did make a lot of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one specific moment where she almost took me into this realm, like I could see her entire being like shift. And she took me into this realm of I saw what trauma she had been through, and I saw that she had been suppressed, told, and then a big blow up. And I was like, oh my word, I don't have a short fuse. People push me too hard, So it was a massive like wake up call for me because I was like, okay, how can I better show up for her? And in turn, how can I better show up for me, right?
Yes.
That was a very incredible one because I was like, okay, it finally makes sense now. Now I understand.
Did you grow up with horses?
In my very early years, they like the first house I ever had was on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't older than 4, to be honest, but there were horses on property.
Mm-hmm.
But no, only when I was about 12, I got involved with horses, but obviously not in the way we do things now. And then I left horses completely. Always loved horses, but beyond very connected to horses. But I wasn't prepared to get involved with horses until I knew there was a better way, find a way.
Yeah.
And luckily, I found it.
Luckily,
yeah.
you did. Luckily.
I've always had animals around me, though. Always been super connected to all kinds of creatures.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And I think with your background also in mental health and wellness, the understanding that the animals, as you say through your story, and both of your stories, actually, it's just like that opening up, that our hearts open in ways that are so powerful and surprising, I think, sometimes, right? Like what we feel and what we sense and what we see. So the messages, any other messages you want to share? Any other stories of what some of the...
Lots.
Yes, go for it. Share whatever you want. You can pick an animal, any animal, giraffe, elephant, snake, horse.
Yeah. I think for me, like with the untamed horses, I had early experiences of trying to control the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And having terrible results from trying to control the situation and getting to that point of abandon and surrender, and everything just fits into place. Very much mirroring my experiences going from corporate and just throwing it all in the air and seeing where things land. But the conscious is very nagging. So at that point, I started rationalizing and think, okay, but they were once domesticated, let's say 4 generations back, and it's there. They've been exposed to humans. So like I constantly, every new experience, I would rationalize the magic out of it. I would rationalize the connection over control. And then with my experiences with the zebra named Zara, who was pregnant when I met her, and she started following me around. And I'm not talking about a zoo zebra or a tame zebra. She was completely wild.
Wow.
And she had free access to move around with the horses. And she started following me around. I used to have my cup of coffee and a meditation on my veranda every morning, and then play a bit of guitar. And you kind of go into this space, and then you look up, and this zebra is standing a couple feet away, staring at you. And it just became a morning ritual. It's kind of okay. The zebra joins me for my meditation in the morning. That's fine. And she eventually started following me around as I trained young horses, and she foaled down. She had a baby within 100 meters of, well, probably 50 meters of my bedroom, with us right there. And her baby kind of started following us around as well. But she was completely wild. And sadly, her mom died. The mother died 3 months into our winter, which was a very cold winter. So I had to make the decision of trying to tame her. So that was probably the biggest moment of understanding control versus connection. With a horse, you can rationalize. You can get a rope on them and you can do stuff. Good luck with a zebra, even if it's 3 months old. The size doesn't count thing. 3-month-old zebra will teach you that. And every time I try to control the situation, we had and this was to feed her, to save her. And initially we would put her into enclosed areas. Zebra can escape from amazingly intricate enclosures very easily. Okay. And it became the thing of, okay, release control and just try and build that connection. And she would not accept food from you. So the first thing everyone said to you, as if you wouldn't think of it, well, just give her a bottle, give her some food and she'll be fine. She would not accept human food. Especially considering when her mom died, she was standing there while we loaded her mom's body into a vehicle to dispose of it. So she watched the humans take her mom away.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a little bit of, well, probably a hell of a lot of distrust. So again, rationalization comes in, and when she got to that point of trusting me, then she started taking food from me, and I was pulling her through winter. But my promise to the owners of the property was, if I were to save her, in other words, give her food, I had to train her. Wild animals, if they don't have communication, can become very dangerous if they associate us with food. Okay. So she got training no different to any of our horses. Okay. But she taught me a lot about horsemanship. So I got her halter trained, and I used to halter train her every day for feeding, and then release her so that I could get a little bit done at a time. With her being wild, there's always that understanding that she's going to be more scared than a horse would be. but the that breaking point for control versus connection thing, I was sitting with her having her food with the halter on, and she had been perfect for over a month.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the herds of the wild zebra came running past, and I don't think they'd seen me, but they went to push on her. And I was busy looking at my cell phone, disconnected, and she was gone. And she pulled the rope from the halter out of my hands and set loose on 480 hectares of property, running with this rope chasing behind her, running to this other zebra herds for security, and they all just scattered because this rope was coming at them. She ran to the horses and they ran from her. And for probably a good 30 minutes, I sat there thinking how badly I'd stuffed up. And am I ever going to be able to get this rope off this poor little thing? Is she just going to run herself until she collapses? And where do I start over? And the starting over was from scratch. It was like she'd never had that halter on. And I started back at the beginning and stayed connected for every session I ever had with her after that. Yeah, so the ropes weren't the connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. That's what you're just saying. The connection is attention.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. And I think something that makes sense in so many ways. You speak to being disconnected, and I think in fairness, I think so many of us disconnect because the intensity or the stress it just gets beyond what we think we have capacity for. So I think when I think of her, leaping into her group there, her herd, and wanting to be part of that, and then them all scattering, this kind of speaks, I think, a little bit also to something Talya brought up earlier about belonging. How do we connect? How do we disconnect? How do we communicate? How do we find belonging? And so, Gareth, that's a really powerful story on any number of levels. And before I go back over to Talya, I want to ask, how is she doing now? And where is she?
And unfortunately, we don't know. So we've got friends that still work at the property that occasionally give us feedback. Mm-hmm. But it's been a while since we've had feedback. But she was settled with before we left, because my Mare had adopted her. So we had to separate her from her adopted mom too, which broke me. But before we left, we spent time building her relationship with one of the mares that was going to stay. Mm-hmm. And the last report back we had, she still hung close to that mare.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's a good report. We'll take that. But it also brings up, I think, again, another theme around there's disconnection that happens because we don't feel like we have the capacity for something, so we'll pull back. There's also disconnection that happens because life, whether it's someone going out of our life for any reason, and how do we find our way back into connection? And so something you've shared, which is really powerful, is your intention for her to have connection, that she wasn't alone. And I think this speaks very deeply to some of the other themes that Talya brought up earlier. And I'm just curious, Talya, if you have anything you want to share from that place.
Yeah, so I wanted to share like 1,000 million different things. Now you just brought up another topic, which I think you'll find quite interesting. So when we left this property, which had the zebra and a whole bunch of other horses we loved, they were all part of our herd, just not in our ownership. So we had so many phenomenal experiences, but one particular one was there was this gelding that I was really close with. And on Facebook, there's a picture of Gareth took it. It's of me hugging the horse and the zebra. So they both kind of engulfing me.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most special pictures I have. And I really want to put it on canvas or something. And then, when we left, obviously this said gelding was not ours. We didn't own him. We had to pretty much just up and leave him.
Yeah.
And I kept having this very deep feeling inside going, it's not the end, it's not the end.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, well, it is the end. We're not gonna see him again. And then I just thought, actually no, let me every single night for literally 2 years, I'm just gonna send him a bit of like a hi, I hope you're well, like I promise I haven't left you.
Mhm.
Long story short, he ends up being sold to a client of ours who ends up gifting him to us. Obviously, we're still going to buy him, like it's a payment plan,
Right.
but he's with us now.
Oh
you
my
know.
gosh.
So, yeah, so it was a very special, how everything worked out was quite miraculous. And the big lesson in there was, we could have either obsessed about it and pushed it further away and maybe it wouldn't have even happened. Or we were like, this would be amazing to see him again. It would be great to see him again.
Mhm.
And let it go. And we did. We let it go. I even had this like vision board thing, and I had a picture of a dark bay mare and a horse that looked like him and saddles and things. And about a year ago, I saw this piece of paper and I was like, nah, I'm going to throw it out. I've got my mare, I've got the saddle, like I'm never going to see this horse again. So meh. And then I found it again. Like I obviously didn't throw it away. And I was like, I'm going to hold on to that. You never know.
Mhm.
So yeah, and he's with us and he's very happy back with his herd.
Oh, I love that so much. And, it's interesting you bring up a number of things. It's like, there's like all this cross traffic going on with our minds right now because we're like, oh, what else can we talk about? But that idea of the connection and something you did, Talia, is something I could relate to with my cats that I had to leave behind. And for 8 years, I grieved. I cried every night for 3 years, probably easily. But eventually I finally got into a rhythm, like you were saying, of just sending love and, an appreciation and gratitude for them being in the world, even though I wasn't able to see them. And lo and behold, due to a series of unforeseen and unfortunate events, but in the end, fortunate enough, I suppose. I was the older kitty was able to come back to me, and
Wow.
it was pretty amazing. I'd actually love to have David jump into this conversation. Are you available to jump in? Okay, let me spotlight him because I think this is an important part of the conversation. And since the four of us were at dinner together, it's like being at dinner together again. But that idea of how we are connected through the ethers and how even the connection doesn't just come through us. So in other words, what I want to do is just kind of have David share just quickly about he's the one who went to pick up the kitty because I was just about to have surgery or had just had surgery and I couldn't leave to drive the 8 hours to go pick her up and 8 hours back. So David, can you speak a little bit to that like connection from your perspective as someone who had never met her? So this is kind of where I'm going. And the bigger picture here, I think, is how when we're working with animals or being with them, living with them, talking to them, your story, Talia, brings up this idea that they're finding their way back the way they need to through those that come into their lives. So David, I'm sorry, I just talked a lot, but do you want to share a little bit about your experience with Sheena and how that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I would say is that these connections that are so extraordinary really seem to transcend boundaries of space and time.
Mm-hmm.
In this instance, a beloved, familiar, to use the sort of, mystic phrase, connection between Denise and Sheena. But they hadn't seen each other for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And without relating the very unfortunate circumstances by which she came to us. She was actually in a state of, at the time that I directly encountered her, in a state of dehydration. And we came to learn that that was a result of veterinary neglect. She had not received the care that she had required, which was tragic. But on the way back, I mean, my first order of business was just to get her some water. And then the entire trip back, I just had her sitting next to me and just kept one hand on her as I was driving.
Which again, it was a long drive, 8 hours
It was
each.
a long drive, yeah.
Did the whole thing in one day.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising to all you animal people. You all know you'll do whatever it takes.
But basically, Sheena and Denise had not seen each other for several years. And Denise had just gotten back from a surgery and was in bed.
Yeah.
And so basically, when I brought Sheena home, and we energetically and otherwise, kind of connected on the trip, but she went directly to Denise's side and literally just stayed at her side, other than to get up and eat and come back to the bed. Stayed with her, this person that she hadn't seen for years. The bond was so luminous, so beautifully obvious and visible. And we were with her together to her passing, which was its own extraordinary event. So, the life journey that we share with animals, obviously that quality of connection is available not only for so-called domesticated animals, but also for other creatures that we share this earth with. If we're available for that connection, if we are attuned in our attention, that we can identify the sometimes quite obvious, but most often subtle and delicate and exquisite details of that connection and communication. Our own experience of aliveness is vastly amplified. So, this is where religious language comes in, blessing, gift, miracle, right? It's just something that in our modern culture, way of living, we've increasingly disconnected ourselves from the natural world, and as an obvious consequence from each other as human beings. So not only is our pathway back to this sort of intimate co-creative bond that we share with animals, enlivening in its own right, but it also gives us a more expanded experience of our own humanity. And when we weave together in partnership, we weave together in friendship and communion with others, it's a larger web that we're participating in.
Thank you so much for that. That's really why I wanted Gareth and Talya to be here today, because you too, that's what you're doing. Like that's how I see the both of you, honestly, is bringing that message.
What David was saying there, that these connections transcend space and time, and it links to something. One of the first things the end of the first ever talk I watched of yours, Denise. But often when I walk into work with horses, I travel miles. There's no ways. I haven't even interacted with horses that have interacted with those other horses. And there's a sense of knowing who I am and what I do. But not just horses. Like we were at a horse rescue near us, and there's a rescue giraffe over the fence, and it literally walked 2 kilometers to come to us. And it's that sense of knowing what we are and what we do, and probably knowing what we do more than we think we know what we do. And it linked back to that thing at I think one of the US journey on.
Mhm.
And you ended the talk, your last question was, what did you promise your soul you're going to do this time?
Yes.
And I hadn't thought of that, but from that, it was this deep thing of being a voice for those that we've taken. It's not that they're voiceless, that we've blocked our ears to, being the voice to those.
Yeah. That brings up a lot of emotion for me. Again, the two of you, the three of you, all of you. You know, it is true. And you know, when I asked that question, that was really about our North Node and what is it we promised our soul we would do this time around. And so I appreciate that very much. You're deepening into that. And as we move into this new era, I'd love to hear from both of you what you want to bring. You know, this is a little bit intentional vision setting. How do you want to grow, and what do you want to continue to bring into the world? And I know this is kind of springing this question on you, but if you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them.
You know, this is a very deeply hostile, passionate point. There's a big one that I really would like to bring into this world, and it can take a million years if it must. But like touching on with what Gareth said is voicing the animals who aren't heard. This to me comes in a lot of different aspects. Definitely the horse world, oh my word, to the T. Huge suppression there. Yeah. And everywhere else, like even game farms, you know, there's a thing, and it irks me because I've had special bonds with elephants, giraffes, you name it.
Yes.
And what upsets me the most is that at these game farms, if a person who knows nothing about animals is told, don't get out your vehicle and don't hug the giraffe's leg, and they go and do that, and they get injured or worse, killed, or the vehicle is rolled or whatever, that animal gets shot.
Oh.
And in my mind, I'm going, that's not fair. You first interfered in a situation you don't know anything about. You've put yourself in harm's way, but also in a herd dynamic, which is not fair. You could have been so unaware that you blocked off on a baby. So to me, it's like you literally asked to get killed. Like, I'm sorry. So with that, it drives, and I recently had a conversation with someone who works in conservation. And ultimately, it was a long conversation. I had a lot of argumentative points because I really wanted to understand like why this happens and why there's no protocol in place for it.
Yeah.
And it came down to, you know, the guest, the international, whoever's there, needs to have their mind put at ease because they're paying the money to fund all of these places. So it comes down to money at the end of the day. And to me, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. I have a huge, somewhat calling to stop that.
Yes.
It's not fair that the animal gets taken out because of the human's fault.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Talya. And so to just be clear for all of us who may not know what a game farm is, I'm assuming this is a place where people go to look at animals from a Jeep or something.
To touch on that, a lot of internationals will call it a safari, an African safari, or a trip like that.
Okay.
And a lot of times you are in a 4x4 vehicle and being guided to see the big five or wild animals of any kind.
Right. And there's no education for the people that are on the tour, as it were. There's no education about how animals herd or how they interact, or there's nothing like that ahead of time.
So there is, and there should be more. The thing is, people will touch on it very lightly, and they will say that, like, there will be an indemnity form. However, it doesn't cover everything. You can't possibly go through herd dynamic, body language, breath, whatever the worry signs are of the different animal. You can't get through that in 45 minutes. And also, it takes so much practice to learn about. So That's why people are like, okay, well, your guide has been trained, listen to your guide. But unfortunately, even in those systems,
Mhm.
sometimes the guides are tipped extra to get closer to the animals.
Oh,
So, you know, it has a
wow.
bit of a, I know I'll have a lot of people in the industry going, oh, that's not how it works or whatever. But I have had
Yeah.
conversations with people and it is like that.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
sure there's some places that don't do that, but for the most part, they do.
Mhm. Well, we support your
And
passion. We support you. I guess
thank
I support you. I'm speaking for the we, but I do think that education is clearly missing somewhere along the line. And like you said, the money, when you traced it back, it became about how people were getting paid and so forth. It's a challenging aspect to the world that we live in and multiple levels. And before I ask any more questions, are you okay staying on a little bit longer till 11:11 my time? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, 10 more minutes. Okay. Might as well. I mean,
Yeah.
might as well just keep it going. But
Yeah.
Talia, what does it take to create change there? What are you up against and what do you see as a way that will support you in making change?
I honestly, like what it keeps coming down to is education. There's going to be, look, I'm so used to the backlash of people not agreeing with a certain way.
Mhm.
So I may as well go all out.
Yeah.
Good. We like that. That's good. That's very good.
So I think because I can't, like where I stand now, I can't actually make a change in the industry.
Mhm.
As far as game farms and stuff like that go.
Mhm.
What I can do is I can run campaigns and education kind of things down the line.
Yep.
I can perhaps do an interview with an actual person who works on the safari things.
Yep.
I can chat to a lawyer to see what the actual indemnity form thing entails
Mhm.
and how to charge someone. So, like, I want to see if there's any way I can implement change in the sense of if someone comes in, they sign the indemnity form. On the indemnity form, it says if you've taken XYZ steps to go hug a giraffe, and I've told you not to, you get either fined if you don't die,
Mhm.
or there should be some action taken against the person for doing that. Like, if you want the money, just charge the person extra, quite frankly, for being an
Right.
idiot. You know?
Yeah. Wow.
But I
Okay.
think change is going to come from actually just like having a subtle approach, but maybe it reaches the right people. So if I can just go, okay, this is what I feel, this is what needs to change, educate,
Mhm.
I think
I
and
know
then
a
get
few
our own data.
people. I know a few people who might be able to talk to you.
Also,
They're not.
I think the big thing for me is taking what we've learned with horses in terms of being able to establish behaviors and communication, and taking that to rescue and rehabilitation centers and using that as an example. Because right now, even within the educated conservation world, because my early studies were linked in wildlife, not equestrian,
Mhm.
and even in that setting, it's one of the mentality of kill the beast we do not understand and therefore fear. It's like, oh, if the animal, regardless of what it is, knows it's stronger than us and loses its fear of us, it will kill us. And that is such outdated information.
Mhm.
To the point that when they rescue or rehabilitate an animal, well, if it can't go back into the wild, you must just kill it because it's going to be dangerous to humans. I believe we need to be able to have a core of animals that we can disprove that theory, and show people the soulful, this idea that everything is out to kill us. It is a terrible reflection of our shadow. It's like, well, if I had the power, what would I do? And that is even if it's not our pure intention, it's that shadow of what's been cast on us as a species, as a domination rules.
Yeah.
Dominance is power. And we think animals have it. They don't. If we have communication in place, whether it's a little gazelle or elephant or a giraffe or a lion, if there's understanding and communication in place, we can keep ourselves safe and keep them safe without them having to be destroyed because we refuse to breach that gap.
Yes, and something you're speaking to, this theme to me, I mean, I wasn't planning for this to be a what are we stepping into Pluto and Aquarius theme, but it's turning out to be that. This idea of power with and power over, and how we're stepping from a power over model, and hopefully Pluto and Aquarius, along with some other aspects, obviously, of power with. And that's really what you're saying on some level is how do we live with the wild and the untamed. So that's
there's also such a, and of course it ties back with horses as well, there's this stereotype or misconceived idea that if the horse is big and strong, we need to put extra force in place because otherwise we can't control it. But we've had so many experiences of these giant beings who are also horses, and using as light as a feather pressure, if not anything at all, to connect. It's interbeing. It's not supposed to be this, oh, I am your ruler.
Yeah.
It's, hey, can we interact? Can we coexist?
yeah.
And it really needs to take, like the world needs to take a shift into that direction.
Yeah, I saw Nancy's comment there, harmony.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. We can coexist in harmony. And even harmony, like harmony in Discord, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, but it's an overall sense of harmony.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that as we move forward, then Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years. So the two of you and all of us have 20 years of that energy that we're moving toward. And obviously, from my perspective, planets moving into new signs, there's always a little uncertainty. There's that kind of generative energy of shift and change and evolution. It's bumpy. We'll call it like turbulence on a plane, Exactly. See, David and I, we are so connected. I said the word, it shows up in the chat. It's like he knows what I'm but yeah, so that turbulence is part of evolution. And so I want to encourage Talya to continue to speak up. And Talya, whoever used that word hostile, let's reframe that. Let's reframe that to passionate and full of that life force energy so that change can happen. How's that sound?
That's much more peaceful.
Yeah. And it's okay. We have long conversations. I don't actually know when your birthdays are, but I'm a Taurus, David's an Aries. That's just our sun signs. There's so much more to it, but living peace, harmony, conflict, change, evolution, shifting, it's all a part of it. And so wherever the two of you are in your, I think they have frozen in a beautiful picture on my screen. So hopefully they're still here. Hopefully you're still here. That bringing all of who you are into the world is what is needed. And that's something true for Gareth and Talya, who I don't know if they're still on, but also for all of us, that we are here, each of us, to express our authentic selves and to grow and to change. And I think they had to drop off, but maybe they'll come back it's almost 11:11 on my clock, but we'll give them a minute to come back on. And one of the things I'd like to encourage all of you, because I didn't give them a chance yet. I don't know if they're coming back. One of the ways that you can stay in touch with them is through the Patreon page. And that is, the link it'll be in the follow-up email. It's also in the email I sent out last night. And the Patreon is a way to support their work, but also stay in touch with the different things that they're doing. Facebook, Instagram, they're on there as well. Then they do come to the United States. You can go to other countries. They always invite us to come to South Africa. All right, thank you so much, David, for putting that in there. There's a YouTube page on Patreon, all of that. So in the case that I may not get them back, because it's like Zoom is some sort of miracle, right? But it's not everything. She says they're trying to get it working again. And I'm going to let them know I'm still here. We'll wait, we'll wait, we'll wait. One of the things that again, I think we're going to have them back so they can tell more stories, but this idea of living in the wild, there are animals of all kinds that walk through their house, So I think it's important to know that they are living of what they speak. Does that make sense? They are fully authentic with who they are and what they are in the world. So anyway, I'm giving them a few more minutes to come back on. And as we do that, we can just remember in our own lives how we are connecting and how we are disconnecting. And what does it feel like when we're disconnected? And how can we seek greater connection within ourselves and then out in the world? There is a powerful connection with animals that many of us share. I would say everybody here and probably everyone listening. The animals are teaching us some important things in the world, and we are here to listen as well as learn from them. And we are very blessed to have so many of us, and all of you here too, who are part of this. And so, we'll keep these conversations going. It's past 11:11. I'm going to check in on them and see how they're doing. So far, they're not there. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll probably have to call this to a close. And I just want to thank everyone for being with us. Encourage you to reach out to Gareth and Talya just to say hello. Just let them know that you were here or that you listened on YouTube, and let them know that we're supporting their vision of a more harmonious world through our connection with the animal kingdom, queendom, realm. I like realm better. Let's go with animal realm. All right. So everyone, I'm going to wish you all a very beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to stop the recording